With Norway, of course, one of the major donors in the international community, Foreign Minister Borge Brende, very good to see you as always. So just please start off by giving us your overall impression of the kind of challenges that we are facing both in Syria and in the region when it comes to meeting this ambition on education.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here this morning on a topic that I think is the defining issue for Syria and the neighboring countries, the future of the children in the region. As we saw in the film, these children are the future of Syria and also of the neighboring countries. And in a situation where they have been facing war, insecurity, and we can just imagine their experiences, and we have met these children in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and also in Syria. And we know that these children, they really deserve a future with education. And in that respect, it is totally unbelievable and totally unacceptable that close to 3 million Syrian children is out of school. We are, and we have to be so honest, that we are facing a situation with a lost generation if we don't act now. This is so much at stake. This international conference today is really a crucial moment for delivering what is needed to secure education for every Syrian child. And it is possible, but also in humanitarian situations and actions, we know that education has not been on the top of the priority list. So when our Prime Minister in a very few minutes will make Norway's pledge for the forthcoming years, where we're tripling what we delivered in Kuwait, we're also saying that 15% of our contribution will be to education. And if every country allocates at least 15% of the humanitarian assistance, we can be in a situation next academic year where at least all the children in the neighboring countries will have access to education. And these children have lost almost everything. They can have lost parents, family members, their home, their toys, but they have not lost their future if we can show that we can be there to deliver quality education. So I think this is the crucial thing for the Syrian refugee children, and it is doable, and hopefully this afternoon we can then say to each other, with the pledges that are made, we will be in a situation next academic year where all the Syrian refugee children will have access to school in the neighboring countries. Then, of course, we also have to move on the political agenda. Very difficult in Geneva. We know that there needs to be effective and result-based peace talks if there is going to be also a better situation in Syria. But in the current situation, where with all this crisis and the war, we have only covered the UN appeals with 50% so far. This is also totally unacceptable. So by the end of the day, I hope we are getting as close as possible to the 7 billion that the UN has said is needed to the UN and other humanitarian organizations to be able to scale up on education, health, clean water, protection, shelter. And as I said, education will be a very crucial piece of this. So a lot at stake. Thank you for putting education on top of the agenda. And I'm sure that the rest of the panel will also confirm the commitment to deliver on this. Thank you.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much indeed. A rallying cry there from Norway to start off. And you clearly state that this objective is achievable. We saw in that film the young Syrian refugee Sarah, who has clearly demonstrates the fact that young people have not lost their passion for education. And our next speaker is somebody who really does embody that spirit of a thirst for knowledge. Malala Yousafzai, of course, Nobel Peace Laureate. is at the table there, and we would like to hear your comments, Malala. And she's also accompanied by Muzoon Almellehan, who is a Syrian refugee recently settled here in the United Kingdom. So Malala, please, either standing or sitting, as you prefer, if you could address this, the issue for us. Thank you.
Allowed stand. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, who is the God of all mankind. At this summit, many people will talk about the 1.4 million children who are out of school in Syria, who have become refugees. And it is important that we hear from these children, from these young people of Syria in their own words. So that is why our next speaker is so important. Muzoon Almellehan was born in Syria, and war and that terrorism and those conflict forced her and moved her family to Jordan, and she was refugee in Jordan for almost 2 to 3 years, and now they are making a new home in the UK. When Muzoon was in the camp, she insisted on going to school, and not only for her education, she continued to encourage girls in that camp. She encouraged them that education is key for their success, it is key for their future, and she would go and talk to girls, talk to their parents, and she really made a difference in their lives. So when I visited Azraq camp, I met lots of girls. Muzoon was there, and one girl told me that it's good to meet you, Malala. You are doing a great job, but it's not you, but it's actually Muzoon who inspires me, and Muzoon is my role model. And I totally agree with her. Muzoon is my inspiration. Muzoon is my role model as well, because of the commitment that she has, because of the strength that she has to fight for education. And I'm hopeful that she will inspire you all as well. So let's hear from Muzoon. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, may God's peace be upon you.
I am a Syrian refugee. I am so honored to be here. First, I want to say thank you to the UK for welcoming me and my family. We are so grateful to have a normal life again. Thank you to all the countries that welcome refugees. What all refugees want is for life to be normal. I hope after this conference, more refugees will be able to have a normal life, especially the children. I am only one girl, but I am here today to speak for all Syrian children who are displaced or living as refugees. Thank you for the opportunity to give Syrian children a voice at this summit. Like all children, refugee children have dreams. My dream is to be a journalist. When I am a journalist, I will use my voice to tell the stories of different people and different countries, so we can work together. But today, I will tell my story. I am 17 years old. I grew up in Dar'a. My father was a teacher. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. I love to study and learn. Then war came. My father could not go to work. Going to school, too dangerous. Too dangerous. Sometimes there was no food, so we went to Jordan we were there for 3 years. I want to thank the Kingdom of Jordan for giving safety to us and so many other families. In Jordan, we lived in 2 refugee camps, first in Za'atari and then Azraq. Life was not easy, but I was lucky. I was lucky because I was in camps where there are schools. I was lucky because I have parents who believe in education, especially for their daughters. Not every girl has parents like that. When I started school in Azraq camp, I noticed something terrible. Many girls were not going to school at all, and the number of girls in my classes was getting smaller. They were leaving school to marry. Some were only 14 or 15 years old. Often they didn't know what marriage means. We all have a right to marry, and marriage is good. But first, girls must get an education. Their parents thought they were protecting their daughters, but education is the best protection for girls. If a mother is not educated, how can she help her children? If young people are not educated, who will rebuild the country? We need education because Syria needs us. Syria needs engineers and teachers and doctors and journalists. Without us, who will bring peace? I shared the same message as my friend Malala. Education is power. Education is the future. Education makes us who we want to be. You know this is true. Education was important for you in your life. It is important for your children. It is important for Syrian children too. Some people call us the lost generation. We are not lost. We have not lost our love of learning. We have not lost our dreams for our future. We have not lost hope. Syria will never be the same as before the war. I hope it can better. Will you help us? Will you fund the education we need to make our hopes and dreams come true? One day, when I am a journalist, there is a story I want to write. I want to write the story of how all the Syrian children come home to lift up their country. I hope that story begins with you today. Thank you.
Muzoon, shukran jazilan, and Muzoon and Malala there, thank you very much. So clearly, No Lost Generation initiative is an absolutely critical one there, and we've heard a very powerful voice there, haven't we? Justine Greening, British Secretary of State for International Development. Very moving interventions there from these two young ladies.